Hey guys, if you want to support the podcast, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, toss it around on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. Please spread the word. Also, you can go to patreon.com/185 miles south, become a Patreon, $1 a month, $3 a month, etc., etc. We're finally rolling out some bonuses and just much respect to all the people that are helping me out. I really appreciate that. You can also donate PayPal. It's paypal.me/185 miles south. Get it done that way. On this week's episode, we have Carl Valdez from Ill Repute, the original drummer. And this is a nice long one. Carl has a fucking impeccable memory and goes into everything. It's fucking awesome. So here we go.
"185 Miles South", a hardcore punk rock podcast.
All right, this week we have Carl Valdez, the original drummer of Ill Repute. And Carl, you said you were going to clean up all the gaps for me, huh?
Yeah, I'll try to do my best. I've been known to have a decent memory, so
Yeah.
I'm going to try to my best to fill in some of these gaps of what some of these other guys have been talking about.
Cool. So, well, let's start it off. How did you meet all the guys in Ill Repute?
So one thing I was thinking about is, all four of us, we were all good friends or pretty good friends before the band even started. The others had talked about how they knew each other in junior high and earlier, but I knew Jimmy from playing football.
Okay.
So we both played football since we were freshmen in high school. It's kind of funny because Jimmy played defense. He was a defensive back, and I played wide receiver.
Okay.
So we had gone against each other on the football field every day at practice, and I'm sure Jimmy's given me plenty of sticks over the years. So we were close in that way because we were all part of the football team.
And this is Wainimi High.
This is a Wainimi High. Yeah, so we played together from freshman year on, all through varsity. And so we had a lot of common friends. I met Tony. Now, he was in a math class of mine, and me and another couple guys always wanted to start this garage band kind of thing. We always had the dreams of being in a band. And we had heard Tony played guitar.
Okay.
So... so we met Tony and we said, "Hey, we heard you know how to play guitar." He goes, "Yeah." I goes, "Hey, we'd like to start a band. Can we come over sometime and just hear you play?" It was really funny. It's like we kind of made Tony audition for us.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have a band. So I remember he was playing his brother's acoustic guitar, and he was playing Evil Ways by Santana.
Sure.
And Proud Mary by Creedence and stuff. I said, all right. So we had a band there, and then John was a year later from us, but because he was good friends with Jimmy, he just hung out with us. And it's funny because there was a club in high school called Interact, and I think it was our junior year or senior year in high school. The club picture has the four of us standing real close to each other in the picture. Three of us were actually officers.
Okay.
So me, Jimmy, and Tony were officers in the club, and John is standing right behind one of us in the photo. So we were all friends. We ate lunch together, went to Tony's house all the time, playing music. Jimmy, his family, I was really close to his family. His younger brother, Steven, was actually one of my best friends during this whole era. So we became really close. I know that Jimmy's brother, Steven, was good friends with my sister. I know John's brother Mike hung out with my sister for a long time too. So we were all pretty close well before the band years. And we had spent a lot of time together, going to parties, going to concerts and that kind of stuff together as friends.
That makes sense because it seems like you genuinely like each other because there is so much early output, right? There's a million demo songs. And so you're obviously jamming a ton.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because you talk about how close we were. I remember, Jimmy, even during the band years, because Jimmy and I were the only ones who were really into sports. So we would go to football games. Jim and I would go to the horse track down at Santa Anita. We did a lot of, we'd go to hockey games together. So we did stuff like that away from the band. John and I spent a lot of time with each other too. So we were just close. I really think that was one of the things that helped, develop that band, was just our closest as friends and just wanting to create together.
Yeah, and that's the original lineup, just for you coming together, right? There was no let's try a different bass player, try a different drummer or anything. It was originally for you.
Right. I know they, like they've said before too, they had the concept of the band before I even got in there. Now, because Tony and I had, a little garage band in high school, they had asked me a few times, and it was interesting for me because I just wasn't into the punk rock scene. And it wasn't like they asked me, they may have asked me, hey, do you want to go to punk rock shows with us or whatever, but I don't recall that being a conversation so much as, hey, will you be the drummer in our band, into a style of music that I really didn't know. And I'll be honest, probably just didn't even like it because I just didn't get it.
Yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, Carl. You're a total poser. You didn't get into punk rock until 1982.
Yeah.
So, or exactly. 81 or 82. Man,
exactly.
What a new jack.
Yeah. But it's funny because, I wasn't into it at all. And it's funny because, and they've said too, I used to argue with them, nobody could play like this. I don't understand what this music, that's not real drumming because it's too fast. Nobody could even play that way.
Right. Yeah. So do you remember like the first practice or any of the early practices?
Yes. I they were always at my house. My parents were really cool about us practicing there.
And what part of town are you living in, Carl?
No, this is in South Oxnard on the J Street house, which is where the cover of The Land of No Toilets was literally right outside of my front door. And we just practiced there, almost every night that we possibly could. If somebody wasn't working or whatever, it wasn't like my parents said, nope, you guys can't practice tonight. We practiced as much as we could. And, Tony would just kind of, play a song. Hey, we want to do this. And I didn't know punk rock music. I didn't know how to even go about it. So they would just say, hey, kind of play this kind of beat, and I'm thinking, okay. And I just do the best I can. And sometimes, okay, play a little faster or whatever. And all I really tried to do was try to incorporate the bands that I had listened to, but just faster.
Yeah.
I was, such a rocker, I'm not going to go into how much I love Bad Company, but, I listened to Kiss, and Boston and Cheap Trick, and Van Halen and Zeppelin. And then I just played those kind of beats, but just faster.
Yeah.
And that was all I knew. I didn't know that there was, drummers like Lucky from Circle Jerks or Derek from Social Distortion out there creating their own styles. I was just kind of playing what came natural.
Sure. And the drumming on the demos is a little more straightforward punk rock, don't you think?
Yes, because and it was more because I just didn't I just had limited exposure to really what was going on at that time. And the only exposure I really had was what Tony or Jimmy was writing.
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, they're playing, okay, this is the kind of beat I would play in this, and sometimes they say, no, play it like this, but then I kind of grew into the style that they were writing.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's becoming the band, right?
Yeah, that's going to go. Yeah, exactly. Forming a band and being a band, and learning together. I mean, we were all self-taught, so I think we all just kind of grew and matured into our instruments together, and that was the fun part of it all.
Sure. How long after you guys started jamming do you think you went and did the first demo recording?
You're looking back, and I'm thinking, literally, it was probably just months.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact date that we first started practicing. I'm going to say it was probably sometime in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if I'm looking at timelines, it's probably the summer of '81, and we were probably in the studio probably by October or November of that year, and sending a demo tape to Rodney. I really think it happened that fast, and we just didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when do you start playing shows? Do you remember?
Well, then by that New Year's Eve was our first show.
Okay.
It was the first official paid gig, and that was for the Al-Anon Club.
With the beer guts?
No, that wasn't. So that was our first punk show.
Okay.
We played a show for an Alcoholics Anonymous New Year's Eve party.
Okay.
And they weren't expecting a punk band, and it was the mom of one of John's friends. They said, "Hey, we need a band for this gig," and we thought, she says, "Well, you guys have a band," and he's like, "That's not the kind of style of music that you want at this," and she trusted us. Says, "No, we want you guys to play this," and yeah. We opened up with this song. It's on the demo. It's called Rapid Pulse.
Okay.
That was the first song that we played there, just to kind of shake them up and say, hey, this is what we're about. And yeah. I don't even think we finished the gig. They just kind of said, okay, thank you guys. And, after the first break, they gave us some money. We got paid $150 for the show.
Wow.
That's
and that was
start. That was our very first gig.
Yeah. How many people fell off the wagon that night?
I'm sure that was the big joke, is that we probably just drove a lot of these people back to drinking.
So then the first punk show is that one that I've seen the flyer with the beer guts.
Yeah, beer guts, Circle One headlined, and Aggression played as well. So I think we had played a number of house parties. Okay. Between there, and we were playing Silver Strand a lot. So at this time, well, I don't know if this is time, but because I had this big garage that was pretty much empty, people were coming to the house to watch us practice all the time.
Cool.
And, other bands were coming over just because it was just seemed like that was the thing to do. Yeah, it was a place to hang. I mean, nobody was getting in trouble. Nobody was, drinking out in the street or anything like that. It was just some place to be, and we would practice, and then we would go from there. And I remember Domino's Pizza had just opened around the corner, and so I remember us going to get pizza a lot with, like, Ron Baird would be there from, so that whole scene was just always at the house, and it just seemed like a natural thing that we were always doing. I mean, probably a few times a week, people were just coming over, just hanging out with us.
Sure, that's so cool. Yeah. And so then you start playing shows. And
right.
Are you building up some popularity?
Yeah, I remember we just, especially we do the house party, and we're house parties, and we're doing the demo tape, and we get these, we get it out. We just make copies for friends or whatever. I know we started getting some LA house parties. One of the more memorable house parties that we played was Black Flag, Sin 34, Suicidal Tendencies, and us. And maybe even some other bands, but those are the only bands that I remember.
And that's a house show?
It was a house party.
So,
yeah.
Are you playing a backyard, or?
We were playing in a backyard.
How many people do you think are there?
Oh, shoot. I don't know. 100?
God, that's insane.
Yeah, and I remember actually Suicidal Tendencies was going to open for us at that time. Oh, I'm pretty sure Circle One had played as well, because they were the ones getting us all these parties,
Right.
down in LA, and so I remember Mike Muir talking to John Macias about it. Was like, why the hell are those guys? They're not even from LA, and why do we got to play before them? I just remember, but it was crazy because I mean, Black Flag Sim 34 was playing and Circle One and stuff at a house party. Yeah,
That's totally insane.
Yeah, so and then we became good friends, or I actually became good friends with a lot of girls from Ojai, because I worked with one of the girls' moms, and I told her, yeah, we got this band, and she's like, oh, my daughter would probably like your music. So she introduces me to a whole bunch of her friends up in Ojai that went to this private school up there. So they became real good friends of ours too, and so the buzz of our band started going up into the Ojai regions, and then somehow it merged into the Ventura area. So we got a pretty good fan base outside of the Oxnard area pretty quickly.
Yeah, and can you talk about like how you met the Circle One guys?
Now, I'm pretty sure, so Tony and Jim and John, and especially Tony and Jim, could probably tell that story better, but because they were already going to shows, they're
Right. They probably just met them going to shows in LA.
So they met him going to shows, and I've heard different stories about how they've met him, but they became really close with him, and I think they were the ones who encouraged Jimmy and Tony to start the band.
Gotcha. Yeah,
because they were playing.
That was kind of my question. Is those guys have always had the reputation of being like really intimidating guys, where and Ill Repute always kind of like, you guys you're like a fun, awesome band, and everyone to a man is like a nice guy, and so it's just kind of an interesting pairing.
Yeah, how we got hooked in with the Circle One guys, and I think it was because they befriended, John Macias was a great, and this guy was, to me, he was just this big, towering presence. And even my times around John, he was always just really cool to me. And I have some vivid memories of being around them, and especially that reputation that they had. And so the song "Bad Rep," I wrote, that was one of the few songs that I wrote, but I wrote it after a night that we were in Hollywood, and the Circle One guys kind of had, I don't want to say they had a reputation for starting trouble, but somehow trouble seemed to follow them. We'll say it that way.
Well, I remember you won't be the one starting the rumor, Carl. I don't think you don't have to worry about it in 2019.
Yeah. Plus, John Macias is gone now, so he's not going to come after me.
That's true.
But
R.I.P.
I remember we were at I can't even think of the club that's on Hollywood Boulevard. Anyway, so we're at the Whiskey. We were at the Whiskey, and we're seeing a show. I don't remember who was playing. I think Fear was playing that night. And all of a sudden, all the guys in Circle One and who we used to call the family start walking down Hollywood Boulevard, or Sunset Boulevard is what it is, and just start messing with people, maybe start intimidating people. Next thing I see is people are getting beat up, and a girl's car catches on fire at a gas station. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And I remember the cops coming. That
escalated quickly. Suddenly there's a car on fire.
Talk about it escalating fast. And I remember us running down Sunset Boulevard, hiding from the cops. And I remember ducking down this alley, and I can't remember who exactly I was with, hiding from the cops. And I'm thinking, fuck, I'm just a guy. I'm just a drummer in this band from Oxnard, and I'm running for my life, and I didn't even do anything. And that's exactly the lyrics of Bad Rep.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so I wrote Bad Rep just from that. I mean, literally probably the next day, wrote these lyrics down and wrote that song and said, this was the story of my life right now. I am being associated with these guys, and I'm gonna have a bad reputation because of that.
Yeah, that's cool. So you guys are building up a little bit of a name, and then the song comes out on Rodney.
Right.
And is it like an overnight thing? Do you see like a lot more popularity after that?
Oh yeah. So once that comes on, we're talking about being on the radio, and at that time, I mean, K-Rock was really the only alternative rock station, and at that time, nationwide, it was known for being the the top alternative radio station. Like if you're gonna have alternative radio, that's who you're going to emulate after KROQ. So getting on Rodney's show, and then of course, then getting on the album, you're just telling people, oh yeah, we're Ill Repute, and we did Clean Cut American Kid, and now everybody's like, oh yeah, we know Clean Cut American Kid.
Yeah, sorry.
And so it's amazing. So there was this one show that we played, and there's a video floating around from 1984 at the Stardust Ballroom, and it was so Land of No Toilets was already out, but it's it's not like a household record or anything. It was just before What Happens Next had come out, but when we play Clean Cut American Kid on that video, you just see the crowd is just going nuts.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all over the stage. They're jumping on stage, singing along with John the best they can. I mean, that was such a breakthrough song for being a first song. I mean, that was
a legit hit song.
Yeah, right away. And I remember when Tony presented the band, he's like, "Hey, I got this song," and it just clicked right away. The original version isn't too different from what got put on the record, other than Robbie Fields wanted us to do whoa-ohs instead of the little guitar lick.
Right.
But and that's what yeah, exactly. But that's exactly what a record producer does.
Absolutely.
He just says, we're going to do this instead of that. Trust me. In the middle, we're going to do this big chant where we're just singing Clean Cut American Kid, where it's just the drums, and we're going to come back in. And, so that was pretty much it. One thing I did wanted to say with Tony's, musical songwriting genius, I think, is, that song is a 2-chord song.
I know.
And to go, from there with his, limited training at that time too, to write this hit song with 2 chords is just amazing.
Well, it's a shower song. It's a song he had to have just started singing to himself in the shower and then came out of it and laid it down. Because you're writing a hook, right? You're just writing a hook, and then you got to figure out how to not fuck it up when you're trying to put it down onto the guitar. Right.
So. It is, it's just a pretty basic song, but it's got all these little intricacies too. People love singing along to it. Everybody's doing their part in the song, and it just comes together as hit song. I think, wow, okay.
Yeah, that's so cool. Now, that's like one of the most amazing things about Ill Repute, though, is like you sniff a little success of this song, and then you make the hardest right turn ever and do Land of No Toilets, which is like, it's just a viscerally kind of ugly 7-inch.
Yeah.
Like the way it sounds. Like the guitar tone is gnarly. You step up the drumming to like, you go full force instead of like, you're doing like the faster mid-paced punk beat on like on the demos. But here you're going to like full fast.
Right.
So what was that to add the speed?
Well, it's funny because I remember, when Tony did his podcast with you, it's funny, Tony depicted it probably better than I would have even thought it. But as I was thinking about this, it was really just about I had that much more exposure to what was going on in the punk rock scene.
Yeah.
At this time, so, you talk about a full transformation. Here we are, I'm the total rocker guy with the longer hair, didn't want to go to punk rock shows, didn't want to even be in a punk rock band. So once I got in it, I was the one driving down to LA 2, 3, 4 nights a week, taking us to all the punk rock shows that we can go to.
Right.
So, so now it's really just about exposure, and I'm just seeing all these different bands at different size venues, whether they were small clubs or we're going to these big clubs like or arena shows like the Olympic Auditorium. We're playing with bands. We played with Circle Jerks a number of times in those earlier days. I remember played with Social Distortion a number of times. Seeing those bands and being around them I started just understanding, not trying to be like every other drummer, but just kind of understanding the music style.
Yeah.
And I really think that when you talk about punk rock, you can't compare the LA stuff, like the New York stuff or the English stuff. Or LA it was hardcore. That's what it was. So really just getting into the hardcore style of music really got me listening to it more, starting listening to what drummers were really doing in the songs, and I just started getting faster at it. And I was like, I think one of the other bands that I probably don't give a lot of credit for, and I probably don't even listen to them a lot too, is like bands like Gangrene.
Well, they're out of this world fast.
SSD,
Mm-hmm.
Some of the DC bands. Listen to a lot of them. Obviously, Minor Threat was a real big influence in those earlier years, and I just started thinking, okay, this is what they're doing. I can do this, and I just started playing it more and more. And I really think as a band, they started writing more songs in that style too. So, when you're talking about like songs like "Fuck with My Head," I mean, it's a just and then just figure out how to put those breaks in there.
Right.
And to me, that's the amazing part about our band, is that we didn't have any training. We didn't have a producer telling us, "Oh, you need to do this and that." We just listened and just kind of worked on these songs together. I wrote the beginning of Sleepwalking, the picking part. I probably was, maybe a little bit influenced by TSOL,
Mm-hmm.
but also obviously, influenced by, AC/DC's Hell's Bells.
Sure.
Or,
Sure.
I mean, it's like, or those kind of songs. But I wrote that a beginning riff, and then I kind of figured out, well, if this is the melody of the and I thought, okay, well, this is the kind of drums I got to put in it. So we just start producing the song, and Tony tells me after I showed him my little lick, he goes, and he says, I think that's going to go perfect with this other song that I've been writing, which happened to be in the same exact key. So that's where the fast part comes in.
Right.
So it just, I think, from the 7-inch, it was really just, getting to play a little bit more with each other. I know we always had talked about putting "I Won't Kill for You" on there just because it was the first Ill Repute song. So I think there was always an intention to put "I Won't Kill for You" on that 7-inch.
Right, and that's the song that survived from the demo.
Right.
Yeah. It was a demo, and then you crank it on the 7-inch.
Yeah, so we played. Obviously, you could tell that we've matured as musicians and as a band at that time. There were some other songs that I know we wanted to put on there. Like I know we wanted to put "Death Row" on there, but I just don't think we matured enough on that song for it to make it.
Yeah, so there's not a ton of space on a 7-inch.
Right. So We'll Get Back at Them and In Society, Who Cares? I mean, those are like, really fast songs. And we thought, well, they became our better songs. We liked playing those songs. I think even when we did Sleepwalking, we had no idea that was going to be, a trilogy of hit songs that were going to be, staples. It was just a song that we wrote, and there was a story to tell, and let's just play it.
Well, you're kind of fucking with those dark chords, and the only band that's kind of doing that is the TSOL, right?
Right.
In the punk genre,
right?
Of course, you have the AC/DC, and then you have all the death rock type stuff too.
Right.
But
and it's funny because my experience on a guitar was very limited. I mean, I may be the only person to ever say that Tony Cortez was really my guitar teacher influence as far as guitaring goes. It's just because from being around the band and to come up with a lick like Sleepwalking, with limited. I didn't even own a guitar at that time. Is pretty amazing now I think about it.
No, it's super rad. So how do you lose the kick drum track on the 7-inch when it's not digital? So I don't even understand how that happens.
I'm not even really sure how it happened. I'm sure. Well, I would presume that maybe a cable got disconnected, or something on the board. Maybe they had hit the mute button on the kick by accident.
Yeah. So you think it just didn't record?
Yeah. So we think it just didn't record. So when we go to the final mix, and actually it was only. Well, I'm not sure how many songs it was. It was a few songs. It wasn't the entire record, but it was a few songs.
You catch it after a couple songs.
Yeah, and we're going there for the final mix. So we do a couple of songs and everything's fine. Then we go to a couple more songs and we're like, "Where's the kick drum?" And so at that time it was like, this is probably weeks later, and it's down in LA, so we don't have a kick drum in the studio. It's like we're not going to re-record these songs, and
sure.
And the engineer, he's looking around the studio for stuff, and he pulls out this Folgers can and this wooden spoon, and he looks at me and he says, "Do you think you can play the kick drum right here on this Folgers can?" And like, what? I mean, because you're talking. I mean, it's a totally different dynamic of your foot versus your hand.
Right.
and I said, well, I'll try. I mean, that's the best thing we could do. So he hooks it up, and we're setting the EQs right. And actually, it made a better kick drum sound than my own kick drum. And I remember asking him, how did you even know to do this? And
I fuck up all the time.
No, he said that on the Rolling Stones Exile on Main Street album, Charlie Watts did the same thing, but with a cardboard box.
Jesus.
So, and so he had read this in a trade magazine, so he thought, let's just try it. And it really didn't take that many takes. I mean, I really think it was just like a couple takes on getting that, and got the timing down, which to me I think is pretty amazing too, because it would be hard for a slow rock song, much less doing it in Society and Who Cares.
Absolutely. That's insane. No, I mean, the story's insane. So that 7-inch comes out, and do you see the popularity go up again, or you're just now you have a legit release, right?
Yeah. So now we're going out, and we're getting shows, and we actually did a Western U.S. tour of that 7-inch. We went to, I remember we went up north, so we went up to the Bay Area, up here, Sacramento, went across to Reno, and that's when we first met Kevin Seconds and that whole Reno scene. And then we cut over to Salt Lake City, Denver, back down to New Mexico, then Arizona, and we might have played Vegas, and then on the way home. So that was that first 7-inch tour, was a little loop.
And then are you touring in a pickup truck?
Yeah, that was in the pickup truck. A lot of those photos were from that tour. The crazy thing about that tour was we get to Salt Lake City, and I'm just running super high fever, probably at least 103, if not even hot. I was as sick as a dog. I didn't even know. I mean, I was just in so much pain. Mm-hmm. And I remember we did a show, and those guys actually had to help me put my drum set together.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I just had literally no strength. I just had enough strength to do the gig, I remember I slept the entire time before, slept right after. I think I slept in Salt Lake City for like 2 days.
Jesus.
And got better, finished the rest of the tour, and when I got home, I found out that I had compromised my appendix.
Ooh.
And actually got my appendix taken out shortly after the tour. So definitely could have had some fatal could have had some fatal
some bad results there if you didn't
take care of them. That was some memories there. That was a pretty hairy tour, but we made it home.
And just so people,
so we definitely got go ahead,
Carl. So people know you're touring it's a pickup truck and you have a trailer.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 2 dudes in the front, 2 dudes in the back of the pickup truck, and then your gear in a trailer.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's wild.
It was a Chevy Love.
Yeah.
So we did all kinds of really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So can I put you on hold 1 second? My wife's trying to call me.
Yeah. Go.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. All right, and we are back.
Okay, so two guys in the front, 2 guys in the back, all equipment in a trailer. We had bought that. We bought that trailer in Oxnard. Just from, I don't even know if we saw. It was just in front of somebody's house, a trailer for sale. I think we paid like $150 for it.
Oh, so awesome.
And we figured, this could fit. It was like a homemade trailer. It was like a U-Haul box trailer, but it was homemade. It was made of wood. It lasted us that whole first tour. There was no problem with that one. It was when we took it out on the second tour did we have problems with it. Or maybe, I don't know if we were on tour or we were going to Arizona. That was it. We did an Arizona trip. And we're going down I-10 through Indio, and we get a flat tire on this trailer. And the trailer had like really small, trailer wheels. It was like,
for sure.
Yeah, so we have a flat tire. We didn't have a spare. We didn't even think of getting one of those fix-a-flats. We didn't know what to do. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. And we thought, well, we've got these shows in Arizona. What are we going to do? So we take all the equipment out, put it in the back of the truck, and we ditch the trailer on the side of the freeway, probably about 100 feet off the side of the road.
Yeah.
I think we try to cover it up with some tumbleweeds or something. And then we think, okay, let's leave it there. Let's go do the shows. And on the way back, let's just figure out what we're going to do. So we go, we do these shows. So now we're going to Arizona with no trailer, all the equipment in the back of the truck. And I think the way we did it then is 3 of us sat in the front. And one guy, we made one little cubby area in the back for the person to sit in the back.
Jesus.
All the way to Tucson or whatever, and back. So we get back and we go back to the spot and we see our trailer still sitting there. And we're thinking, well, okay, it's sitting there, but it doesn't do very good. We're not going to get it fixed. It was probably a Sunday. We thought, well, what are we going to do? I thought, well, we just left it there. And we thought, okay, you know what? Let's come back another day and
we'll just book a show next month and grab it then.
Pick it up. What's that?
Just book a show next month and grab it then.
Yeah. So what we did is we thought, okay, let's come back and we'll go get it. We'll borrow somebody else's truck who's got a bigger truck and we'll try to fit in the back, or we'll try to go into town and get a tire or whatever. So we're so stupid. We're thinking it's still going to be there. And it was at least a couple of months till we finally made it back out there. and it was just Tony and I.
Yeah.
It was just Tony and I this time. And we drive out there, we're thinking, and we're all excited. We're just like, hey, that'd be so cool if it's still there. Yeah, and we're like, it's gonna be there. Who's gonna mess with this trailer that's got a flat tire and stuff?
Right.
And then we're about 5 minutes away from the spot. And I remember looking at Tony and thinking, oh, I just had a feeling it's not there. So he says, yeah, me either. We thought, all right, well, so now we go to the spot. And we're pretty sure because it was next to this storm drain channel. And I think, okay, I know it's gonna be right here. So we get there, and we're looking all over for this thing, and it was gone.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do we think? We're gonna leave this trailer on the side of the road 2 months later? It's gonna still be there. I don't know what the hell we were thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next tour that we go on, we ended up renting. So we take the same truck out, but then we ended up renting a U-Haul trailer this time.
Yeah.
And then we just started having more breakdowns. The clutch went out, engine was overheating, blew a head gasket, blew radiator hoses. We weren't mechanically inclined. We had no idea that a little 4-cylinder Chevy love truck trying to go in the middle of summer or in the heat of summer.
Yeah, it's 110.
110 all the way out to, Florida and back. we didn't know that we had to take care of these kind of things.
Right.
I mean, we really didn't. And so we finally made it home. And looking back, we didn't spend a lot of money on repairs, but it was every dollar that we had.
Sure.
So that became, that was a thing. We called it the disaster.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be the last.
No, that was and it pretty much set us up for tours to come.
Yeah. So after that, then you go in and you start to do the What Happens Next LP.
Right.
And this is the Ill Repute masterpiece.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, I listen to What Happens Next, pretty often, and when I listen to that, I mean, there's songs on there where I even impress myself and thinking, what was I thinking? What possessed me to even do the drumming like this? And I want to start with the song Oxnard because I remember hearing John talk about that. I remember the exact moment we thought of the song. We were at my sister's house, and John just says, we got to write a song that just is a chant for Oxnard. Just something like, and I remember joking with him, something like, Oxnard? He said, exactly. I mean,
exactly.
And that's exactly what the song is. So once again, with my limited guitar knowledge, probably the next time I was, at practice, I asked him, hey, Tony, let me see that. And I just strummed the chords for Oxnard.
Yeah.
And he came up with the guitar riff at the beginning.
Yep.
And, so that's really how the birth of Oxnard came through. And then What Happens Next, that song, is just so...
It's just a blast of fury.
I couldn't even describe the drumming on that song. It's not like anything I've ever seen, and it's definitely not anything I've ever heard or I've ever done before.
Yeah, I'd like to see someone needs to try to put it down into sheet music.
Exactly. I couldn't even tell you what time it's in, or anything like that. And what I do on that song is I don't even play like a regular. I mean, there's parts of it where I'm playing a beat, but the meat of the song, I'm just hitting cymbals. Like I'm doing cymbals and drag rolls and flams. It's in this big giant whirlwind of circle the entire time. I mean, that's like what the drum. And I don't know what made me think that was the drumming that needed to be on that song.
Well, maybe the song is a tornado, so you're literally working your set like a tornado.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I don't know if there's any video of me playing that back then, because I would love to see, because I don't even know what that even looked like. And then, one of my favorite songs on that album is Wayward.
Okay.
And Wayward, to me, if I was going to depict the musical genius of Ill Repute, it was Wayward. I mean, the stops and the starts
Yeah.
is just, and those weren't produced in the studio. Those were real starts and stops that we were doing on the fly at 240 beats per minute. And I don't even, once again, I don't know what made me think, oh, hey, let's start the song like this. Who thinks of that? I mean, I don't even know what even made me think of that song in that way.
Yeah, it's ahead of its time. It's like it could be a precursor to like what a lot of the power violency bands did, and lots of the starts and the stops. It's like once you move beyond Uniform Choice and you get into like the Youth of Today's and like the mid to late 80s straight edge stuff, like a lot of that music is predicated on starts and stops.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is very early for hitting starts and stops like that in fast music.
Exactly. And Jimmy's bass playing, I'll go on record and say he was doing bass lines that, once again at super fast speed and just, he was, once again, self-taught. And one of the things I really liked about our band was just creating that all together. Then
everyone's kicking in, right? Because Jim wrote Book in His Cover.
Right. And he also was the mastermind behind Cherokee Nation. So, little known fact about Jimmy, he was a huge fan of 60s pop music. So I remember in the earlier days of Ill Repute, him just listening to a lot of old 60s music or early 70s music and just trying to figure out which of these songs can we make into a punk rock song.
Well, he chose a good one.
So Cherokee Nation was one. Cherry Cherry by Neil Diamond was another one. There were some other songs that we were playing with, but we just never came to a good production or arrangement. But Cherokee was one where we just figured out, we listened to the song a couple times on his record player. We kind of figured out, okay, well, here's how we're going to do it and arrange it. And his bass lines on that song are just freaking incredible. I really think he, I don't know, underrated or not, he was just very, very good. And we were so new to the whole music writing thing and understanding what a bass player, as a rhythm section was supposed to do. We never really followed each other in a format that most rock bands do. We just kind of played what we thought was good for us. And I at one time actually compared our musicality to like The Who, the band The Who. I mean,
because each guy's playing an instrument. Jimmy isn't backing up. He's not following the kick drum to add meat to the sound.
No.
He's just getting wild.
He's just getting wild. I'm doing my thing. Tony's keeping it all down with the rhythm guitar. John with his singing style, brings it all together. And that's to me is what became the beauty of Ill Repute as a songwriting core. I know in the first 7-inch we gave each other, we each took individual credit for the songs that we wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But when we did What Happens Next, all songs were written by Ill Repute as a band.
Yeah, and you just are a band by then, right? And it's obvious that you guys played together so much, and that is like the culmination of Ill Repute is What Happens Next. It's inarguable that it's the best thing.
Yeah.
Until Bleed, which I also love.
Yeah.
But
those later stuff, they did some good stuff on that too.
Yeah, I love a lot of that. So What Happens Next comes out, and what happens then? Like, is there another popularity boost? Like, are you?
Oh yeah. So by this time we're playing Olympic Auditorium. I mean, we're like main support for bands, and when we're playing, and I think we started getting more gigs with the bigger LA bands. We're headlining a couple shows of our own. We're going on that second tour. We're basically, it just becomes a blur because we're just playing so many shows we're getting feedback, we're getting radio airplay, Clean Cut American Kids still being played out there even more, but then college radio stations are picking up, the What Happens Next album, and they're playing that all over. Book It As Cover and Cherokee and Fill It Up just become, staples for, stations to play. Oxnard starts getting played all over the place. So we're playing a lot more. And the entire idea was to come out with another album. And some of those songs ended up on the Nardcore, first Nardcore compilation. And,
yeah, I mean, you have a song on every Mystic comp, basically.
Yeah. So we're playing that. We're Sleepwalking 2's written. Another song that I wrote was, which I underappreciate, is It's Not Gonna Happen to Me.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah. So John wrote the lyrics to it, but I wrote all the music to that, the slow part and the fast part and the slow part. Now that was definitely heavily influenced by Minor Threat. But those are songs, and we did a couple other songs live that we wanted to have on the album. So I'd say we probably had enough music for about 75% of another album. We did a song called Stop and Think, which is on the Halloween Live album, and Change, which ended up being on the Best of demo tape. So we probably had, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 more songs that we could have put out on another album. And we were kind of working toward that. And that was when the conflict of do we go on tour again, had risen. And those 3 guys said, no, let's go on tour again. And it was funny because me and Doug Moody were the only ones who said, don't go on tour right now. So I decided not to go on tour.
And so this is right before the Scared Straight tour.
Yes, it was right before the Scared Straight tour.
Because you don't go, but Scott Radinsky plays drums for Ill Repute.
Right. Yeah, and I had a regular job too, which I'm 35 years later into public works engineering and maintenance. That was the beginning, and I was like, well, if we don't have an album to tour on, then I'm not going to take time off to go if we're not going to be. And I was so ignorant of how the process worked anyway. Looking back, I thought, we should have just gone on tour again, because we would have really killed it, a year later after What Happens Next, and got out and touring the full U.S., doing a full U.S. tour the right way.
Right. So What Happens Next comes out in '84. When does that tour take place?
The tour I did not go on was in 1985. So it was almost a
whole
year later.
After.
Yeah. So I didn't go on tour, but I didn't leave the band either. I said, well, I'm not going to go. So that's what they got Scott to play. And I kept track with them, and they would call me, or they would call their girlfriends, and their girlfriends would call my girlfriend. And so I was pretty much knowledgeable of what they were doing. Sure. So I was keeping track of them, and wishing them the best. Hey, I hope everything's good. And they tell me, we're here in Detroit. This show got really killer and stuff. So, they let me know right away when the stuff got stolen too. It wasn't like they were hiding it from me. And when they came home, I was still part of the band, and we had gigs in LA, and I played them.
Right. And so do you keep going strong through 86, 87?
No, pretty much through 85 and maybe 86. And that's when it just started getting to be a little bit more.
So Omelet comes out in 85, and that's kind of like a compilation of a lot of the comp tracks and so forth.
Right.
And cherry pick songs off each record.
Right.
And so you're going through 86, you think? Like end of 86?
I'd say by well, let me think. So in 86, February of 86, I got married to my first wife.
Okay.
And my son was born. So I know at that time we were not playing. Okay. So,
and
because
like how is the scene? Is it like Is it strong?
No, I think at that time it started getting a little bit more violent. I mean, I think that was when there's a lot of reports of us playing, and then people are just watching out for their backs because fights are just starting out in the crowd, left and right.
Is that L.A. or is that Oxnard as well?
I don't remember in Oxnard as much, but definitely in LA. And that just became the prevalent thing that was going on there. There was talks of certain bands being, attracting a gang element. I think unfortunately, due to the popularity of the What Happens Next album with the skinhead on the cover, a lot of the Nazi racist skinheads started showing up our shows. Not thinking that we were the skinhead band too, but I think they started to like our songs and showing up too, and then crowds just wouldn't like that, so then more fights start, and I think we just kind of quit playing. I mean, I didn't do a lot of our booking, and it was all of a sudden we just quit playing, and there just weren't shows we decided we're not going to play right now.
Do you think quitting playing though was it reactionary to that stuff, or was it just because you were kind of becoming a little more of an adult?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Tony had his son, my son and Tony's oldest son that passed away, very close in age. I mean, they're actually, 6 weeks apart from each other.
Yeah, so you guys both have a kid in
So 85. We both have kids, right. So, we're all taking a little bit of a turn into the family life, or at least Tony and I were. Mm-hmm. And that becomes a major focus of things. So, that becomes, obviously more important, and being around violent shows becomes less important.
Sure. Okay, so then what do you do for the next couple of years? Or there's a handful of years before you get back in and do transition.
Right. So at that time, I remember, John started going to guitar school, and we're still hanging out. I mean, I remember going down and visiting John at his school and stuff, and I think, a couple years goes by, and he said, "Hey, I got a couple songs I want to try out. Do you want to jam?" And then
before this, Carl, do you guys still play once a year or anything, or do you still jam twice a year?
I don't even think we did in '86 and '87. I don't think we did. We didn't play any shows that I recall at all. And then so he's off at guitar school, and we decide that, hey, let's jam. John says, "Hey, I got some new songs I wrote. I'm going to jam." And that was pretty much the transition album. But in addition to that transition album, we had made a whole different other album of other stuff that Tony was writing as well. Pretty much just rock music. It was not punk rock at all. I'd say the most punk rock song that we even played during that time was a song on the transition album called "Burnin'." Okay. And that's not even that, or "Sleepwalking 3." Those were probably the closest thing to punk rock songs. We were just we just turned into a rock band.
Well, there's two songs on Transition, and I'm not super familiar with the record. I have it. I don't listen to it a lot because it's not that good. But
right.
But there is two songs that Tony sings on that are really good. And I don't know the
probably
names.
One of them.
Burnin's probably one of them, and there's another. There's because I listened to it last week or a couple weeks ago, and there's legitimately two good songs of Tony singing that are good songs.
Right. So that and there was a whole nother probably 8 other songs that we had recorded as well in the whole in the recording sessions. We were going down to San Diego probably every other week
to the newer Mystic.
Record. When Mystic moved down there, and we recorded these songs. And I don't know, we had the intention of coming out with another album. I mean, they offered to write, you guys want to come out with an album? We said, well, all right, well, let's record them. And we recorded all these songs. And once again, it wasn't until the final mix that we just thought, we can't release this stuff. I mean, we just dawned on us that